All
I'm
right.
obsessed with this damn show. It's driving me nuts that I have to wait a week in between them. It's killing me.
It's so good.
I am genuinely curious. Like, as I know that you kind of were reading up on some of the stuff that goes on in the comic books and everything, but like, where do you stand with where we are right now? Because I know this is still better than Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Where do I stand with the show? Like just general opinions?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for, is like the high level stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of the best show, if not the best show out right now to stream. And I think in the next few episodes, we're going to start to see that Omni-Man is about to be pretty screwed. I think the Mauler twins are up to something. And that was pretty evident through this episode, not just them cloning each other. But yeah, it has picked up already, but it's going to pick up a lot more.
This is like a super good point to be at. First of all, because we're caught up now on our reviews, and now we can speculate wildly on whatever matters.
Yeah.
Before it was kind of like, I don't want to spoil the next episode. Now we're 2.5 hours from the next episode coming out. I have no idea what's going to happen. I know what happens in the comics, but that doesn't mean that's what's going to happen here.
Episode 5 is out already.
Is it?
I'm pretty certain episode 5 was available for me to click. I'm pretty sure it was there.
I know what I will be doing as soon as I get off of this call then.
Yeah.
So we're here to talk about episode 4 of Invincible. I need to throw up the spoiler banner here. Sorry, I should have done that ahead of time, but episode 3. No, not episode 3, episode 4. Yeah. So, all right. We open with we know who Mark is going to be now. We know what his powers are going to be, and he's kind of exploring that. He's training with Nolan, and basically we get the peekaboo motherfucker scene. I'm on the top of Mount Everest, and some guy is climbing up there, presumably on his last leg.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just another example of how powerful these people are. And I kind of love to see that.
Mm-hmm.
You also get the juxtaposition of the last one home has to take the garbage out for the next month. And somehow, while you're a superhero, you still have to take the trash out. And that is crushing my dreams, Mark.
Happy wife, happy life. It doesn't really change, I guess, if you're a superhero.
How do you feel about Debbie, Mark's mother, and Nolan's wife in this? Because I don't feel as though it's definitely evident that as compared to the comics, she has a much larger role to play here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like Debbie a lot. I liked her since the first episode. I think she's a normal human, obviously, and she's down to earth, and she wants to bring Mark back down to earth and just let him and have him realize, like, yeah, you have all these powers now, but you can't forget about us. You need to use them the right way. And now that she's picking up on some of the things going on with Nolan, which is evident in this episode. I don't know. It's I feel bad for her, and I don't think she's stupid by any means. And I think she's going to figure it out, even though at the end we see that she may be, just let it slide for now, or, let her pre-notions,
she definitely has her suspicions.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the big thing to me. And I'm really waiting for that other shoe to drop where you find, and also later in this episode, you find out that Cecil also has his suspicions that Omni-Man killed the Guardians of the Globe.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got Damian Darkblood, who shows up out of nowhere in the last episode and is basically just like creeping on Debbie, voiced by Sandra Oh, by the way. And she's hot on the tail. She opens up the incognito browser and is just like checking up on Damian Darkblood, like, how credible is this creepy ass dude?
Yeah,
who's cold no matter where he is. I think it's very interesting. I'm glad they gave her more to do in this than they did in the comic book, because in the comic she's kind of she's more of a sympathetic character after it's revealed that Omni-Man is a bastard.
Mm-hmm.
But we obviously haven't gotten to that point. By the way, that's a big divergence from the comics, is that much sooner, I feel, you know that everyone knows that Omni-Man was the one who murdered the Guardians.
Is a piece of shit. Yeah.
So and if we're just going to keep going on characters who are much different than who they are in the comics, Amber's a great example of that, and that is Mark's girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just like, oh, they put a black character here. Like, that's I have no issue with that. It's in the comics, she's a valley girl kind of person. She's just like the hot girl in school who is like untouchable or whatever. And in this, Amber's way more down to earth. She's like the person who's like a traveler and wants to help people. And I think it suits better to the story here, especially since Mark is trying to convince her, like, hey, I'm into the same stuff that you are, aka helping people, but he also doesn't want to tell her yet that he's a superhero.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so how do you feel about their dynamic and the fact that he just has to leave her for 2 weeks?
I started to, I didn't really know how I felt about her in the first 2 episodes or whatever it was, where we kind of saw her at school with, and how she communicated with Mark. And now, as they're forming this relationship and going on dates and things like that, I think it would be good to have her in his corner. I kind of liked, I didn't expect her towards the end to be so welcoming of him, you know, just coming back from a week trip or 2-week trip or whatever it was, you know, but she was. And she also obviously seems very smart, you know, and that, with that said, I don't know if she's going to fall for all of his, I got to leave for a week, or I need to go right now and take care of something. I think she's going to catch on that there's something going on with him.
My catchphrase this week could just be like, well, in the comics, they make a pretty big to-do about the fact that Mark reveals that he's invincible, and
Mm-hmm.
Amber had no fucking idea. That's another thing here where we just don't know how that's going to be revealed.
Yeah.
And I think that's for the best. I want this to be different. I don't want it to be exactly the same as the show. You can keep the same main beats, but give me something different, which is great here.
Yeah.
It's their date scene makes you feel like Mark is just a normal kid, or at least he's trying to be.
Mm-hmm.
But in the beginning of any relationship, I feel as though everyone's super skeptical of, like, oh, this person I'm dating now might be a piece of shit. So if a girl came to you in college and was like, hey, I got to disappear for 2 weeks, I can't tell you where I'm going or what I'm doing, but I hope you wait for me, probably wouldn't fly.
Yeah, I would be like, that's some bullshit. With phones and everything that we have today, I wouldn't fall for an excuse like that. But it's
no chance.
It's a show.
What did you think about Omni-Man confronting Damien Darkblood?
There's something more to that as well. Damien Darkblood basically says, yeah, go ahead and kill me then. And Omni-Man is like, I very well could, but there's got to be something there to where he's not going to go through with it for one reason or another.
Maybe he's just like, maybe he's like the Immortal, where he can't be killed. Or like, if you throw his body parts in a bag together, he'll resurrect himself because he's a demon. Yeah. But yeah, Omni-Man makes a point to say, like, nobody's going to believe you. You're a demon. Get fucked.
Mm-hmm.
Which is good. And I like that. And I also like that Damien Darkblood, like, isn't backing down from Omni-Man. He's like, your wife suspects you. Your son is going to suspect you next. You better get your shit in order, because this is coming.
Yeah. And now, I mean, I'm jumping way ahead, but now he's been banished. Been kind of screwed.
That's another major difference from the comics. That doesn't happen till way later. And I mean, Damien Darkblood in the comics isn't nearly the character that they made him to be in this, which is cool, because I think it's a cool character, like the demon detective. That's not something I can recall seeing in another property. So I'm here for that. I like his jilted speech patterns, and he just leaves out like adjectives and articles and stuff. I like his character, and I'm sorry, I'm blanking on who the voice actor is, but he does a good job for that too. Just a very deep and ominous voice. The banishment scene, since you brought that up, that's ice cold by Cecil.
Yeah, why
He's
did
just like,
Cecil do that? Was he just like, I have no use for you right now?
pretty much, I think what you're going to see out of Cecil is he does whatever suits him best at the current point in time. He doesn't, and he makes a good point when he talks about, you demons think everything is black and white. I have to operate in shades of gray. And in the comics, like I said, he does a lot of that. He works with people who are reformed villains or not even reformed villains or whatever else. You know, it's that is the area in which he's willing to operate. You know, the first thing comes to mind is like Operation Paperclip in the US government, when the Nazis are the ones who got us to the moon.
Yeah.
Like, you work with whoever is the best to get your job done. And his job is to defend the planet, defend America, or whatever it is that he thinks it is. And he'll do whatever he has to do. And in this case, Damien Darkblood barking up the wrong tree. Cecil told him, back off. He didn't. Sorry, you're going back to hell.
Yeah. That's not going to be the last we see of him, though.
I don't think so. And I also think that since Cecil has that book, he could just call him back whenever he wanted to. He makes a big point to say that you have this this book that Damien Darkblood destroyed like centuries ago. So we'll see. We do get more of the Mauler twins. So last episode, which was recorded last night, you had some theories. How are you feeling about your theories on the Mauler twins now?
I'm still sticking with it. So yeah, we obviously know that whatever Mauler twin, if it was the clone or really the original, is now cloning himself again. And it just blows my mind that this Mauler twin quickly went into an abandoned warehouse or garage or whatever the hell it was and just put this thing together, and now is cloning himself with, you know, not much materials. I mean, he has the essential stuff, but still he can do it on the fly like this. And I'm thinking, what else can he do? And can he use this ability, you know, his scientific ability or whatever, to get to the bottom of what's going on with Omni-Man, or what happened with Omni-Man?
So I've got to bite my tongue on this a little bit, but I do think it's kind of cool. It basically seems as though he's just a mutated human scientist, right? Like, he takes the drill bit and drills into his arm, pulls out some blood. And by the way, the Run the Jewels song that's playing in the background, I just have to keep harping on how good the soundtrack for this is. I'm so glad that they paid up.
Kelly walked in while I was watching this at the moment where Mark and Amber were sharing the kiss at like his front door when he was telling her he had to leave. And that was, what was it? Paradise by Bozzy. And that song's a banger. And Kelly was like, "Oh, I love this song." I'm like, "You'd probably like the show, but since it's animated, she wasn't having it."
Oh, dude, I've been trying to get my wife to watch it. She loves this kind of stuff. I just can't get her. If I can get her to sit down and watch the first episode, I know that she's going to be in. So we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to see a lot more of the Mauler twins in the future, by the way. So as we discussed last recap, we're pretty sure that Robot is the one who broke them out. I'd be surprised if they switch that at this point, but we'll see.
And Robot's still up to some shady shit. I mean, now they're at the Guardians of the Globe headquarters, the new Guardians team, which was the old teen team, basically, with a couple new characters.
Monster Girl.
And yeah, with Monster Girl, and Robot pulls some blood from
Rexplode.
Why was I going to say? Oh, Red Rush. We have to talk about that a little bit. But yeah, Robot's up to some, seems like shady shit, but I think he is in good nature.
Let's talk about Red Rush. So Red Rush is dead, but his wife Olga is still alive. And she says something that is heartbreaking, essentially. She says, Debbie asks, like, did your superhero husband ever lie to you? And Olga says, yeah, all the time. But the only time that I believed it is when he told me that everything was going to be okay. And that was the one time I shouldn't have believed him. That cuts deep. Like, you can tell she's still fucked up.
Yeah, that's tough. And with that said, she's getting rid of, I guess one of the biggest memories she has with Red Rush and the home they shared together, I would guess. And she's
It's
having Debbie sell it for her.
Yeah, and speaking of cutting deep, like when Debbie goes into her house and basically has to clean up all the booze bottles and shit, like that is serious. They do not they don't ease off in this show, and you should know better because it's a Kirkman property that would never happen anyways. Robert Kirkman is always going to like cut to the quick. So fast forward a little bit, Cecil is here trying to convince Omni-Man to go to Mars. Omni-Man doesn't want to go to Mars. We don't know if that's because he knows that Cecil's investigating him, or if it's just because, like, hey, we need somebody to go to Mars. But Omni-Man ain't falling for that shit, and Mark steps in. Cecil makes a good point. He says, hey, I want to see what this kid can do. And we do see what he can do. Yeah. It's a 2-week trip. He's got to lie to Amber. He kind of trips up a couple times, and it's like, nah, I got to go for 2 weeks. I can't tell you where. I'm going to help people, blah, blah, blah. It's that. I know that we're suspending disbelief for that. That one's a little hard to swallow. Yeah.
And in the big reveal of that, I mean, that was a huge part of this episode is where that was basically the second act of this whole episode is him going to Mars. And the fact that what do they call the Martians? They just called themselves Martians.
Yeah, there's the Martians. Yeah.
The Martians were like, all right, we can't have these freaking face huggers get their hands on a human because then they'll use them as a host and whatever they said about replicating and destroying their world and shit like that. And at the end, we actually see one got a hold of somebody, and the alien version or the face hugger weird clone alien went back to Earth. I don't know if that's ever going to come into play again, or if that was just like, one of those, it was a humorous moment, I would call it. I just don't know if anything's going to come out of that. If that alien is going to take, part in any of these upcoming episodes that we're going to get.
So there's a lot to digest on Mars. Mark kind of falls asleep, and oh no, all the astronauts I was supposed to be protecting are now gone. They've been abducted by the Martians, but the Martians have a good reason. So the monsters, the facehuggers you're talking about, are called sequids. And they are basically a hive mind type thing, and all they need is one host with enough brain power that they can focus it in one area. And basically it's like your planet is donezo. So what happens at the end of this episode is you can see that they got a hold of one of the astronauts, and a Martian took his place. The Martians are shapeshifters. Obviously, this is a pull on Martian Manhunter from the DC comics, but I thought it was really cool to see the subtle nod to show you that it's a Martian on the spaceship going back to Earth when he just changes the flag on his shoulder. It's such a subtle change, but it's like just the clue that you need. And I don't know if you weren't looking for it, would it have been there? It's hard to tell.
Okay, but, so I was confused about that, I guess. I thought that was one of the face hugger species, but that was why would a Martian be leaving the planet just because the Martian knew, like, all right, my planet's fucked right now, I need to get out of here? Or do you think that Martian was behind capturing one of those humans to give it to a host and destroy that planet?
I mean, I guess we're going to find out. At the very end of Mark leaving Mars, you see the giant tidal wave of sequids like coming down on the Martian army. So you know that they got a hold of somebody with enough brain power to take over Mars. It'll be interesting to see because, the Martians say that they're basically just like immune to it because they can shapeshift, but it'll be interesting to see how they play that out.
Definitely.
And it also kind of depends on how long they're going to run this series. Like it's in a comic book series, you plant a shitload of seeds. You say, maybe we can culminate some of these later, but you don't always have to. Sometimes people just forget shit. So I guess we'll see.
Panda Claus in the chat says that was super Venom vibes, though. Yeah, definitely symbiote shit going on.
So while Mark is away in space on Mars, Nolan takes Debbie to Rome, and they go just sit down and have some pizza, and he continues to be a fucking psychopath. He is so good at being that sociopath.
Such an awkward scene.
He's such a good liar where he's basically just like, I need you to trust me. I need you to absolutely trust me. The reason I've been acting so weird is because Cecil suspects me, when in reality, he's being weird because he murdered the Guardians of the Globe, and he's going to try. Well, I can't say that.
He doesn't care about that. He just cares about being caught and being.
He doesn't give a fuck about anything, though.
Yeah.
Like a dragon shows up in Rome and starts destroying Rome, and he's just like, fuck it, let Cecil deal with it. That is a comic book character, by the way. The actual dragon. It's kind of like a mind spirit projection from one of the members of the Order. It's kind of cool. Kind of a cool callback to the comics, but it's just psychopath shit. Like, you could easily stop that dragon, and you're just like, nah, not doing it. But how are you, if you're Debbie, how do you just sit there and be like, okay, Nolan, I guess you don't have to stop this dragon that's killing everybody in Rome?
I mean, what else can she do?
Yell at him? I mean, he obviously cares about her.
Yeah. And that, I mean, that shows when they go back home. They're caught in the act almost by Mark,
I guess.
But I don't think Debbie is letting her guard down at all.
She really isn't. And I actually love that. That's a good adaptation. That's a good change from the comic books. But meanwhile, while they're in Rome for 2 weeks, Damien Darkblood has his run-in with Cecil because Cecil's been monitoring the Grayson household. He runs into Damien there, who is doing some detective work. They pull Damien in. That's where they ended up, you find out that Nolan obviously placed some blood spatter in Damien Darkblood's office and blah, blah, blah. It's a setup. That's when they banish him.
Yeah.
And Cecil, again, makes it very clear that I'm banishing you because you didn't listen to me. Not because we think you're a threat or because, I think you're wrong or that you killed the Guardians, because you didn't listen to me. And that's going to be, I think, a theme that plays out a lot in the future.
It's only going to motivate Damien Darkblood even more, though, to come back and get to the bottom of this and say, fuck you, Cecil. I'm going to show everyone who Omni-Man really is. Yeah.
And I think they're kind of showing their hand. It seems like Cecil maybe isn't all he's cracked up to be. Maybe he doesn't just have everybody's best interests, in mind. But we'll see.
Let's talk about that weird, like, fetus creature thing that was growing in the pod. What's going on with that? Is that why Robot was pulling blood from Rex?
I mean, I can answer that, but I don't think you want me to.
I guess we won't get into that, but that's what I thought, and I'm going to stick with that. I think Robot is involved with whatever is happening in that pod, whatever they're trying to create there.
So without spoiling, we can kind of put some clues together here, okay? So you saw at the end of the last episode, Robot is breaking the Muller twins out of prison. You also saw Robot take some blood from Rexplode. You also see Robot talking to this weird human thing. I'm not going to tell you what to put together out of that, but just think about it a little bit. And maybe we'll see. Maybe we'll see as soon as after this episode ends.
Yep.
I do want to go back to the Martians real quick, though, because something bothered me about that. So Mark goes to meet the Martian King, voiced by Jumon Hansu, by the way. The evil guy at the beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy. He's in Never Back Down. He's the guy who trains the main character in Never Back Down.
Yeah. Yep.
There you go. There's the deep cut. But if the King of Mars has heard of the Viltrumites, why isn't he terrified of Mark? Like, if he knows what Viltrumites are and what assholes they are and these conquering monsters, why isn't he scared of Mark?
I mean, what did you expect him to do? Like, get down on his knees and start bowing? I think once he realized that, you can tell his whole persona just changed in an instant right there. He was just like, get the fuck out of here, basically.
Okay.
Get out of my face.
Panda Claus is in the chat. I'm sorry I cut you off there. Finish your thought.
No, I think this was just a different reaction to that. I think the Martian King, instead of being afraid, was just like, you need to get out of here right now. Like, I can't even be associated with you. You need to get off of this planet. because of what he assumes Mark is based on him being a Viltrumite.
Real quickly, what do you think about the levity in this show? Because I think they showed some of it as Mark is trying to help the astronauts escape from Mars, where he's basically just like, everybody grab hands. I'm going to lift you all. Like, can I lift this spaceship? I think I can lift it. He goes back and talks to the Martians, and he's like, I'm just going to take this rock.
To get a
Mind
rock
if I take this rock?
Mars. I thought that was great, because that's something I would do. I'd be like, wait, I need to grab a rock from Mars and bring it back with me.
Probably didn't need to come back down in front of an infantry of Martians, but I guess if you're a superhero, you just don't give a shit.
It's just funny because there's a whole army of these Martians, and they're not going to do shit because Mark's like, all right,
I will fuck you up.
I have the upper hand here. I can wipe you guys out.
But in terms of levity, like, is this a funny show to you? Does it make you laugh, or is it just kind of like a little bit of comic relief in between?
I think it's clever, and it makes me smirk. I haven't like busted out laughing at any parts yet, but it's clever.
You get a sharp exhale out of your nose where you're like,
hey, right on.
So Pan is in the chat, and he says, I think that Robot is bringing back the Guardians. Okay, that's a good theory. He'd have to get more DNA. Well, I guess Cecil leaves that giant blood spatter on the wall of the headquarters of the Guardians of the Globe, which is super fucked up, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're getting into his background, but he also does something like that to him, and it may lead to why he has the scars that he has on his face.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's a spoiler, but yeah. So what do you think comes next? We're getting episode 5 in about 2 hours. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, let's talk about the very last scene of this episode in the closet. Is that a Mauler twin, or was that like Damien? That wasn't Damien Darkblood, obviously. I couldn't tell. It was just like a groan or a grunt or whatever, right?
Yeah, I think it has to be Damien Darkblood. I don't know how or why. It seems like maybe he left something in the closet of Omni-Man and Debbie. Maybe it's a recording device. Maybe it's something that tethers him into this plane of existence. If you're asking me, I think it's related to Damien Darkblood.
I'm gonna say it's one of the. I'm gonna say it's one of the new Mauler twin. It's the clone. I think the clone is going there to get some DNA, like Omni-Man's hair off of one of his suits or some shit like that. I think that's why he's in the closet.
Fair enough.
We'll see.
I'm just very excited about Robot's weird clone baby thing that he's growing in a test tube.
That's weird. It's weird. We shall see.
I'm hoping that this is the episode where they find out that Omni-Man is a bastard, but I think that actually having it wrapped up and under wraps is kind of suspenseful. So I'm torn. But
Panda Claus in the chat says in the closet, I think it was Darkblood's hat. No. I was trying to make out what was in that closet. I mean, it was dark. The door was like half shut. I couldn't tell what was hanging up, or I don't know. It seemed like as that closet door fully shut, there was like one like white part in that shot that stayed constant for a minute. So I thought maybe that was an eye, but I don't think it was. I have no idea what was.
I don't know what it is, but I'm pretty sure it was related to Damien Darkblood.
Okay.
So
fair.
All right. I think that's going to wrap this up. Hopefully we'll be back to catch up on this and Falcon and Winter Soldier before the end of the weekend. We'll see how that goes. Brick is in Hawaii, so whatever. Fuck you, Brick.
Hawaii.
I love this show, and I hope you do too. And I guess until next time.
Jumps out.